evening and welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news updates, debates and my opinions. If you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. We're on the way to 12,900 subscribers. And of course, if you could click the stream, like the stream, I would be incredibly grateful. I hope you're all doing well. You know, it's nearly Friday, so that's positive, I suppose. Arsenal have lost another game. Declan Rice has a broken toe and, things aren't going too well, but we're going to talk about it. Are Arsenal in crisis? Is it a crisis? I don't know. You tell me. Let me know in the chat if you think we're in a crisis. But we're going to get into it. There's loads of you here, which we love to see. Lord Ferguson of Aberdeen, Hyper, Ethan, Woodsy, VV Vlad, Logical Nonsense, Saliba, Fizzy, Ryan, Pekka, Sam Shapiro. Sam Shapiro, I am sorry. I am sorry. You did win yesterday's Guess the Goal Scorer. You did. I just could not find the message, but you did win it, so I apologize for that. You were robbed. It was daylight robbery. There will be a written statement from PGMOL about that. Spurs are losing, yeah, they are, but who really cares? They're in the Europa League. They're doing better in their league than we are in the Champions League. It's I told you we ain't winning the league. I didn't realize the season was over. I didn't realize we'd played 38 games already. That's gone incredibly quickly. At least Spurs are getting bodied. Yeah. Well, look, I suppose it's amusing. But look, I want to talk. There's a lot to talk about today, so we are going to get straight into it. So, Declan Rice. It is understood Declan Rice has suffered a broken toe. He will be assessed in the next 48 hours. However, he could still play against Chelsea on Sunday, particularly given the magnitude of the game. Following a run of 3 league matches without a win. Now, this depends. Well, we don't know what toe is broken, right? Now, the fact that he's been called up to the England squad would suggest it's not his big toe, right? A broken big toe, you're looking at potentially 6 to 8 weeks out. So it's not his big toe. And if it's not his big toe, he still shouldn't be playing for England, but he could play against Chelsea. It is possible to play with broken toes in the same way that it's possible to play certain sports with broken fingers. You just have to strap them together. You just have to strap your toes together, dose up on some, double strength paracetamol and get through it. But what you don't want is to do that repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly. So in an ideal world, for a big game against Chelsea, he would be able to play. He would then get a couple of weeks to let it try and heal a bit. During the international break. So hopefully he's not going to play for England, but he is going to play for Arsenal against Chelsea. That is the ideal situation. If he's missing for that Chelsea game, I think we're in a little bit of trouble again. If he plays for England, I'm going to lose my marbles. Me too. Saka was obviously called up as well. Thomas Partey not called up for Ghana. Tomiyasu not called up for Japan. I believe pretty much everyone else has been called up for their nations, if their nations have announced their teams. So far, we literally had a bad run last December, January, and all of a sudden people wrote us off, and then we went on a 16 out of 18 game Prem winning streak. We did. Is there any update on Palmer's fitness? No, there's not, other than the fact that Cole Palmer is also in the England squad, which again, if we're using the logic about Declan Rice, the assumption I would suggest is that Cole Palmer is going to be fit to play. There you go. Nid says, that doesn't mean we've lost the league. I still believe in Arteta. We need a Dubai trip. Unfortunately, there will be no Dubai trips this year. There is not a break. There's not a winter break. We can't go to Dubai. But we do need a reset. That's what we do need. We do need a reset. Look, the game last night, we'll bring it up. It was frustrating. It was frustrating. Where is the game? There it is. This was not the same as the Newcastle game. This was not the same as the Newcastle game, in my opinion. We were better. We were better, and we were unfortunate to come away with a loss. I think a draw, a 0-0 draw, you'd been fine, because we didn't create enough. A 1-1 draw, I'd have been fine. To lose 1-0 to the penalty, which, by the letter of the law, in the letter of UEFA's laws, it is a penalty. It's unfortunate, and we didn't take the few chances that fell to us. My big concern is where the chances are coming from. This makes it seem like we had a lot more opportunities than we did. 20 shots, 3 big chances, 1.8 XG. An awful lot of that came from crossing the ball in, corners and crossing the ball in. Outside of that, we didn't really create anything too clear cut, which I do think is still a problem. But ultimately, we went to San Siro and, Inter had very little of the game. And another day, you do walk away as a 1-0 winner. If the elements of kind of luck and fortune go the other way, you can very easily leave there as a winner, and you leave there as a winner, and it would be a very good result. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Momentum is a worry for me. It feels like, heads are down, definitely. The fan base, some of the fan base absolutely losing their heads, which I think is quite embarrassing. I'm concerned about Mikel Merino because I don't even know if that was an injury that he went off for. Concerned about Kai Havertz, who obviously had a pretty significant head injury at the end of the game. Hopefully there's no concussion protocol there. And then obviously Declan Rice coming back as well. For me, this is still the fundamental issue. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. It doesn't. It just doesn't. There's no... There's not even signs that it might work. It absolutely flat out doesn't work. And if I did have a criticism of Arteta, it is that he's just being stubborn, because we can all see it. We can all see it doesn't work. And yeah, it was awful against Newcastle, and it was awful again here. And I put a significant amount more of that on Trossard than Havertz. I'm just, it's not his fault. It's not Trossard's fault. Ultimately, he is a super sub that should probably come on the left-hand side when he does come on. But he's just offering nothing in this position. There were a number of times where Saka had it, and, where Odegaard would normally show for the ball to give Saka an option. Trossard, you watch him, he kind of just drifts behind 2 or 3 into players, into hiding almost, into a position where he can never receive the ball. And it's like, you're useless there. You're not helping the team by doing that. In the press, he's anonymous. Like, it's not his fault. It's not the position he's meant to be playing, but it's tough. And overall, I do think we're just, right now, there's just a real lack of creativity. There's a lack of players that are in the pockets, willing to receive the ball and turn. The only person we saw doing that yesterday was Nwaneri. When Nwaneri came on, he offered more in 10 minutes than Trossard did all game. And, again, that's frustrating. I'd like Arteta to trust Nwaneri more. Like, if you can trust him to come on for 10 minutes at San Siro, you can trust him to come on for half an hour. And with half an hour to go, it was clear that we weren't creating anything. So, yeah, it was another tough game, but one that we just have to put behind us and move on to the next one. There's really no point dwelling on it. And then, in terms of the Arteta out, people jumping on that bandwagon already. People saying if we lose to Chelsea, Arteta needs to go. I think it's premature. Sure, like I've just said, I disagree with a few things that Arteta has been doing recently, but I've got full faith in him to turn it around. Like, absolute full faith that Arteta will figure this out. We're not playing the way that I think he wants us to play at the moment. I do think some of the recruitment we've done has been a little bit too much of the kind of brute force, duel winning, lack of technicality player. I do think we've gone a little bit overboard in that sense. But I do fully back Arteta to bring it back and swing it back the other way. So, yeah, I think people are getting a little bit carried away. And the hope is that Martin Odegaard can start against Chelsea. I really don't know if he will be able to start against Chelsea. Like, he played 4 minutes yesterday. Is it really possible for him to go from playing 4 minutes to starting a game away at Chelsea? I don't know. Arteta out now. He's done. Yeah, no, I just couldn't disagree with you more. Could not disagree with you more. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Thing is, these things are very easy to point out in hindsight. Yeah, of course. Of course. They are very easy. Yeah, absolutely. Not fair on Odegaard to start him. No match fitness. Yeah. If Mo can't start, we have to start Nwaneri. I agree. I agree. We can't. It is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to have a different outcome. So I completely agree that we have to change things up. But look, yesterday, opening 15 minutes, I thought we really struggled yesterday. Inter's formation seemed to completely baffle us. It was like, the players had no idea what they were meant to be doing for the first 15 minutes. But after that, I thought we grew into the game. I thought we grew into the game well, and then that penalty is just, it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate, but there's nothing you can do. If I feel that Trossard plays the pass 2 seconds early, whereas Odegaard plays it 2 seconds later, and he doesn't do trying to dribble 3 players on his own and loses the ball and jogs back like running with his son. I do feel like Trossard carries the ball way too much. I also feel like, you just looked, even in those 4 minutes that Odegaard was on yesterday, you look at the way he picks up the ball and he's looking up, he knows what his options are, and he's ready for the pass. And it's just not what Trossard is good at or thrives at. Let's all remember, this is what happens without Calafiori on that left. Yeah, look, I do think we are missing Calafiori. I do. But, how often are you going to get your absolute best 11 playing? Like, we have to be able to adapt to players being missing. And I think we've struggled a little bit to do that. Do you think Odegaard will start on Sunday? Honestly, I've got no idea. I've got a feeling he will. I've got a feeling. I was speaking to someone about this, and they were saying that, there are almost always players going into matches with knocks or coming back and recovering, and you're almost always taking risks on certain players to play games. And there are certain games that you take risks for that you wouldn't for other games. And I think Chelsea is the sort of game that we take a risk for. I really do. So I think he might start against Chelsea, because it is. Look, people saying if we lose against Chelsea, Arteta out. No, but if we lose against Chelsea, the season is in big, big trouble. It is a massive game. I think White hasn't been fully fit since before the City game. He looks a shadow of the player he was last season. Yeah, White is struggling. I don't know if it's just because of the absence of Odegaard, but I was saying this yesterday, it doesn't feel like White's making anywhere near the number of supportive runs for Saka that he used to do. You used to see Ben White overlapping Saka again and again and again, and we rarely see it now. He did it occasionally yesterday, but nowhere near the way that he used to. So, yeah, there are problems. There are issues. Martinelli, for me, again, still looks so devoid of confidence. He's standing up defenders, and I am at the point where, I look at other left wingers in the world, and they're taking it past the man. They're just more effective in those areas when they're standing defenders up, whether it's Luis Diaz, even someone at this point like a Jeremy Doku, or Ademola Lookman, or Rafa Leao, or Kvaratskhelia. There are a lot of them, whereas I feel like at the moment, Martinelli stands them up. He takes way too many touches. It takes him 3 or 4 seconds longer than it should do to make a decision on what he's going to do. He runs to the byline, puts in a left-footed cross, which we're rarely going to score from, or turns out and has to play the ball backwards. He is struggling. And I do put some of it still down to Calafiori being missing. But even still, I'm seeing, we say about Calafiori not there to support him, but even still, I'm still seeing left wingers at other clubs that are just doing things by themselves without their own support. So, yeah, it's tough. We are in absolute crisis. League over if we don't win against Chelsea. Not a draw. We need a win. I still don't think it's a crisis. We're in a difficult moment. We're in a tricky spot. I don't think it's a full-blown crisis, in my opinion. But if you do, then fair enough. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Anyway, there are some other things that I wanted to talk about today. The Athletic did an article which I found quite interesting, which expands on Edu leaving and maybe gives a different perspective to Edu leaving than what people had in their minds. So Arsenal were aware of Edu's ambition to work in a role with true international scope and had held discussions regarding his future in the weeks preceding the news of his departure. And I did know about that. But there was always hope that he would stay. Next week, Arsenal's football leadership team, led by Mikel Arteta, Richard Garlick, and Vice Chair Tim Lewis, will meet with the owners, the Kroenkes, to outline squad building plans for 2025. Jason Ato is likely to represent the recruitment department. Ato began at Arsenal as a video analyst and worked his way up to become Edu's right-hand man. Last year, reshaping of the recruitment team led to Ato being named assistant sporting director. Jason Ato played a significant role in the most recent transfer window, supporting Edu in negotiations. He's fluent in Portuguese and are well regarded in European football circles. He will step up on an interim basis as Arsenal search for a new sporting director. Ato will be supported by James King, who joins from the PFA to replace Garlick as director of football operations. King takes up his position from Monday. So that's kind of where the hierarchy is going, which is fine. But this stuff I found quite interesting. So having grown frustrated with some of the limitations of his role at Arsenal, Edu is expected to have more signatory powers at Nottingham Forest. So more power to just go out and make signings. Those who know him believe that he is seeking more autonomy. The reason being that at Arsenal, there is now considerable oversight and due process on all matters related to transfers. So basically, he was getting frustrated that things were just taking too long, that there were too many people that had to sign off on everything that he wanted to do. Almost like it was, being mollycoddled a little bit. And I could understand why the club were doing that, because we'd gone through a period before Edu where we made a number of mistakes. We made a number of poor signings that cost a lot of money and wasted a lot of money. So I do understand it, but I can also understand why that would be frustrating for Edu. And so there's a couple of kind of stories. Edu had agreed to move for Ricardo Calafiori, but the Arsenal board were only prepared to sanction it if a major sale rebalanced the books. So Edu had, remember how long the Calafiori deal took to get done? And some people blamed that on Edu's negotiating and thought Edu was negotiating over a few million. Edu had agreed a deal, but the club, people more senior than him, were holding him back on it, hoping that we could get a bigger sale. In the end, the club only pushed ahead on the Calafiori deal in July when Real Madrid emerged as a potential rival bidder. So it was only when they shit the bed because they thought Real Madrid were going to jump in and take him that we finally pulled the trigger on Calafiori. For me, that's slightly worrying. And then it says, Edu and Mikel Arteta have always enjoyed an excellent personal relationship. However, in recent windows, members of Arsenal's coaching staff have exerted an increasing influence over first-team recruitment. That came to a head later in the summer when the club found themselves embroiled in a convoluted deal for Espanyol goalkeeper Joan Garcia. Again, if you were watching the streams, you'll remember we were in for Joan Garcia right at the end of the window, but we didn't want to pay the buyout clause. But obviously, Espanyol were going to want a team to pay the buyout clause with 2 days left in the transfer window. And again, this was kind of forced onto Edu almost against his will. In the final 48 hours of the window, an exasperated Edu had to extricate Arsenal from that negotiation and pivot to signing Neto from Bournemouth on loan. It also sounds like he was really not particularly happy about signing Sterling either and being forced into signing Sterling. So it sounds like maybe this was really not Edu's fault. And when people blame Edu for the summer transfer window, again, maybe it really wasn't his fault. Will that change with Edu gone? I don't know. I would say one thing that I don't think should be happening is coaches having a significant say over transfers. The transfer targets should be based off scouts and data analysts, simply, not coaches. And we have had this, especially in the goalkeeping department. It was rumored that the goalkeeper coach had a significant desire to bring in David Raya. He's then had a significant desire to bring in Joan Garcia. Now, David Raya for Ramsdale worked in the end, don't get me wrong. But I'm just not sure about these guys pushing for players and pushing for signings. I'm just not sure that is sensible. Do we put another defender in Sterling's spot in the bench? Or we put an academy goalkeeper? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I hadn't even thought about it, to be fair. No, it'll probably be an academy player, I'd have thought. Seems like no one can question Arteta at the club. Just speculation, looking from the outside, looking in. I don't even know if that was if it's Arteta, really. I'm not too sure. I can't imagine the process changing with Edu gone. Well, yeah, exactly. I think you're right. So, is that a great system? Is that a great structure? I don't know. The bit about the board wanting a big sale to balance the Cala signing is so concerning as well. We were never going to spend big, were we? No. That's the thing, and that's where we went into the window being told we had all of this money that we were going to spend. Clearly, we didn't. If the first signing that we made needed to be balanced with a big sale. So yeah, I don't know. And again, that kind of puts the doubt in me for spending much money in January either. I don't understand why Sterling cannot get on when we're losing, especially with Martinelli struggling so much. Nor do I. At this point, you have to write Sterling off as a bad transfer. I know it's only 10 games in, and maybe he's going to improve and become an important part of the squad later in the season. But right now, Raheem Sterling is the only attacking player that we signed in the last 12 months. He's the only attacking player. In fact, is it even the last 12 months? Who was the... No, yeah, it's since Kai Havertz. So it's basically like 14 months, 15 months. That's it. And we didn't even spend money on him. We bought him in on loan. But we're not using him. So you bring in one attacking player in 12 months and you don't even use them when you're struggling to score goals. Whose call was it to sign Sterling? It can't be Mikel. We don't really know. Again, I think it was a panic signing. We were panicking at the end of the window. There was no control over what was happening. It was panic. Don't think Mikel trusts Sterling defensively. My only explanation. So I kind of agree, right? My issue with that is if you're 1-0 down, it doesn't fucking matter. Like his defensive contributions don't matter if you're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go and chasing the game. So it's frustrating. Should never have loaned Nelson. I don't think it makes a difference. Nelson wasn't good enough either. I'll be honest. If you watch Nelson at Fulham, he's a good player, but he's not. He's also not at the level that we need. We need to go out and sign a real top left winger. I think at this point, Nelson was trusted more last season. Yet we sent him out on loan. People have forgotten how good Sterling was just a few years ago. Yeah, it's weird. He brought on Zinni, which shows he didn't care much about defensive vulnerabilities then. Yeah, exactly. And he brought on Zinni to try and break the lines again. For the second game in a row, he's brought on Zinni to try and do that. It's tough. We're struggling. Creatively, we are struggling. There's no two ways about it. There's no other way of looking at it, really. Gyökeres is needed. Or, as Ultra Pro Gamer points out, Benjamin Sesko. Now, Arsenal retain an interest in RB Leipzig striker Benjamin Sesko, who has a £55 million release clause, with the club monitoring his progress closely ahead of the next 2 transfer windows. Sesko, it is understood, gave serious consideration towards joining Arsenal in the summer, but held reservations over whether he would have a regular starting 11 spot, with the club making it clear that he would not be a guaranteed starter ahead of Kai Havertz. So ultimately, that was the reason that he decided to stay at Leipzig for another year, was that Arsenal couldn't guarantee that he would come in and be the starting striker. Now, I think that's interesting, and I think that's a problem that you're going to have with other players as well. When you're looking at ever bringing in a right winger, are they going to be happy with holding bench to Saka every game? I do think it's where the left winger could come in and we could pretty much guarantee them game time at this point. I didn't realise Galatasaray were 3-1 up. I didn't even realise that. Is that what people were saying at the start of the stream? Galatasaray 3-1 up now. Didn't realise that. Someone also, someone said to look at the Porto lineup. Fabio Vieira is in the Porto lineup. Interestingly, playing off the right-hand side, which is interesting. We should have got an Elise. Maybe. I'm in the minority, but I still think we need a left winger and a technical 8 over a striker first. No, I agree. I agree with you. Sesko is like Kai? Fuck no. Nah, he's not. He's not. He's not. He is in the sense that he's like tall and lanky and a bit, of a giraffe at times. But the way Benjamin Sesko hits a ball, strikes a ball, like Kai Havertz doesn't strike a ball like that. He simply doesn't. Basically, he didn't back himself. Havertz had to earn it too, this player's man. It's not like it's going against Haaland. But it's not. It's about his development as well. You have to understand Benjamin, and he will have had advisors around him, but Benjamin Sesko is 21 years old. He only turned 21 years old in the summer, right? He's got a long career ahead of him. He doesn't need to rush to moving to a big club, and he decided he was better off staying at Leipzig, continuing to develop at Leipzig, and then making the move. Now, he's actually not had a brilliant start to the season, to be honest. He scored 2 goals against Juventus at the start of October. He then went 7 consecutive games without a goal contribution. He then scored against Dortmund and didn't score against Celtic. So he's got 1 goal and no assists in his last 9 games, which isn't ideal. So far in the Bundesliga this season, he's got 3 goals and 2 assists. So, yeah, it's not ideal, actually. He's not exactly lighting the world on fire at the moment. And I would personally prefer Victor Gyökeres, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. Love Kai, but does anyone actually see him scoring 20-plus goals? I genuinely could have seen him scoring 20-plus goals this season if we kept him as the number 9. But we haven't done. And I think that has massively scuppered him, which is frustrating. We'll see. Hopefully he can get it back on track. But it has been annoying. Barcola is the best bet for us. I don't think PSG would sell him, though. PSG are rebuilding their squad around players like Barcola. I don't think they would sell him, unfortunately. Edu leaving mid-season speaks volumes. No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. If Edu left in the summer, that would speak volumes. Like, it is very, very common. You get to the end of the September transfer window, or you get to the end of the summer transfer window, the start of September. At that point, the key figures involved in transfer windows will then start looking at moving on, or clubs will start looking at replacing them. And you would expect this time of year to be when those moves are made. That is incredibly normal. If you started the summer and the person that was meant to be running your summer transfer window left, that would be a massive problem. Now we have time to prepare and bring in a replacement and give them all of the time that they need ahead of next summer. So, yeah. We would have won yesterday with Sesko or Gyökeres. I don't think we would. Because again, would they have been allowed to play as an actual striker? If they could, maybe. But then I think if Havertz was allowed to play as a striker, we would have won. I just think if we'd started one area instead of Trossard, we could have won yesterday. Chelsea versus Noah's Ark today. I know. The animals are going in 2 by 2. I'm not saying Arteta needs to be sacked, but it needs to be looked at by the hierarchy. We're going through tough times, and it's difficult for him to manage, but we need to start to consider it. I don't think we even consider it. I'm not considering it. And even if this season completely falls apart, if there's one person I'd trust to turn it around next season, it would be Arteta anyway. Are you Arteta out? No, I am massively Arteta in. I am very, very, very Arteta in. I always laugh at commentators and pundits' criticism of our creative game, which is fair, but then they always end their statement by saying, but surely a number 9 better than Kai is what we need. Yeah, exactly. If you sack him, who do you bring in? I don't sack him, so I don't need to think about it. I'm desperate to see Ethan this weekend. Please, Mikel, take a risk. A lot of us are. Even if we regress this season, I would back him to turn it around. I'd back him to understand where he went wrong and figure it out. Arteta literally signed a new contract 4 weeks ago. Yeah. He's not going anywhere. Pedro Neto would have been perfect for us. Possibly. I wanted Neto, didn't I, in the summer? So, Arteta in, obviously. Yeah. What's the scenario that you would lose faith in him? regressing this season and then regressing the season after. 2 seasons of regression, I would then say, okay, there's no turning this around. The regression is really worrying. See, I think it's being blown out of proportion. I think this regression is being blown out of proportion. If you actually throw in the context of the injuries, the red cards, I don't think it's as bad as people think. I really don't. I could very easily see us after the international break clicking into gear, going on a massive run, and people forgetting about this. I really could see that happening quite easily. In my opinion. Favorite left wing market option? I honestly don't know. And that's the issue. A top left winger also takes pressure off Saka. Yeah, it does. It does take pressure off Saka. That's the thing. Everything is reliant on Saka at the moment. I think maybe Kvaratskhelia. Maybe Kvaratskhelia is the one that I would go for. You know, he's approaching peak age. He turns 24 in February. Approaching peak age. Yeah. I think this Vieira failure has influenced Mikel. We could have signed a different profile to Mourinho in the summer, but I don't think Arteta trusts those diminutive, less physical, technical players in the mid. But Martin Odegaard is one of those players. And I kind of agree with what you're saying. And I do think he's gone overkill on, you know, going for these massive duel-winning players. But Odegaard is the proof that those players can thrive. And that's what I find frustrating. Odegaard's an exception, sensational play, but there are more of those players around. There are more players like that can do it. You know, Barella, as an example. He's pretty diminutive, but he's absolutely fine. I mean, I think Barella would be fantastic for us. Osherman brace against Spurs so far. Yeah, you'll love to see it. You'll love to see it. Rodrigo would be insane, but not realistic. I don't think Rodrigo is entirely unrealistic. There are going to be players that want to leave Real Madrid, especially the form that Real Madrid are in. They are struggling. Aurelien Tchouameni wants to leave as well. So maybe. I mean, I saw Tchouameni getting linked to Liverpool today. Maybe that's going to end up being part of the move that Trent Alexander-Arnold makes the other way. But I don't know. 65 million release clause for Osman. Yeah, Osman's an interesting one. Arda Güler. Yeah, I'd love Arda Güler. Would you be Arteta out if he failed to get top 4? The thing is, I think I think there's, because of the English teams doing well in European competitions at the moment, I think there are probably going to be 5 Premier League spots. The top 5 qualify for the Champions League next year. And I very much think that we will finish in the top 5. I mean, I still think we're going to be in a title race at the moment. So, yeah, I think we'll finish top 5. So it's not really something to worry about. But would you take Güler on loan in January? Yeah, probably. Want to know something crazy? Man City haven't won in their last 4 games, whereas the demand of Pep to be sacked. Oh, wait, it's not a crisis for Pep. Yeah, exactly. Which, look, in fairness, you know, Pep has done an awful lot more than Arteta. So you would have, you know, I do think it has to go further for Pep. But, yeah. Xavi Simons and Leroy Sané are good options too. Xavi Simons, yes. I'm a big fan of his still. Leroy Sané, for me, feels like a bit of a better Sterling. Leroy Sané, for me, doesn't feel like the one that you go for now. I don't think. Just me. With Odegaard back, I'm more confident of us going on a run, but I don't know if it will be enough. We'll have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see. Anyway, look, it is now time for Guess the Goal Scorer. I'm going to give you all of the information about an Arsenal goal. You have to tell me in the chat who was the goal scorer and which team was it against. First person to get it right wins the immense pride and respect of the Rory Talks Football community. So get your fingers on your keyboards because we're starting now. This goal was scored with the head. This goal was scored, or it was a header, right? It was a headed goal. It was assisted by Bukayo Saka. It was in the 87th minute. It was at the Emirates. It was in a 3-2 win in February 2021. So a headed goal assisted by Bukayo Saka in the 87th minute at the Emirates in a 3-2 win in February 2021. And I'll give you a little bit of extra information that will definitely help. It was a 3-2 win on the night, a 4-3 win on aggregate. It was a 3-2 win on the night, a 4-3 win on aggregate. I don't think anyone's got it yet, you know. There we go. There we go. Now someone's got it. Now someone's got it. I am just going to double check that no one got it before that, but I don't think they did. I don't think they did. It was indeed Aubameyang versus Benfica. Francisco Oliveira was correct first. Sam Shapiro was second. Ronan was third. Nid was fourth. Oh, no, Nid wasn't fourth. Logical Nonsense was fourth. And Nid was fifth. So there you go. It was indeed. Lots of people saying Luiz against Benfica. It was Aubameyang against Benfica. Honestly, I feel like COVID football, so many people forgot. I feel like so many people forgot COVID football. Francisco very late with the Portuguese team. Yeah. Tierney did score a goal in that game as well. He did. He got us back into it 2-2. But there you go. And now it is time for Guess the Non-Gooner. I'm going to give you the entire career path of a player who does not and has not played for Arsenal. You have to guess who that player is in the chat. First person to get it right wins the immense pride and respect of the Rory Talks Football community, but not as much respect as Francisco Oliveira currently has. This player started their career at Wolfsburg. They started their career at Wolfsburg. They went to Charleroi on loan. They went to Charleroi permanently. They went to Lille. They went to Napoli. They went on loan to Galatasaray. Wolfsburg, Charleroi on loan, Charleroi permanently, Lille, Napoli, Galatasaray on loan. And the first person to get it was Logical Nonsense. It was indeed Victor Osimhen. Logical Nonsense was first. VV Vlad was second. Ryan Henderson was third. Harsh was fourth. And Francisco Oliveira was fifth. So there you go. Congratulations. Apparently Will Lancashire has just been sent off for for Tottenham. He has. Lancashire. Oh dear. That's what happens when a kid starts a game, you know. Oh no, Lancashire. Oh wait, let me get it up for you. Oh no, Lancashire. That's a naive challenge. The goal scorer for Spurs is off. He gets dispossessed and chases the ball, yet his lunging tackle evolves to a desperate scythe on Sarah. He was nowhere near the ball. That's Tottenham's second sending off in the Europa League this season. So there you go. It's your net, unfortunately, Nid. It is your internet, unfortunately, Nid. So there you go. Spurs both 3-1 down and down to 10 men. Look, I'll be live on Twitch later on. I will be live on YouTube tomorrow. We're slightly later on YouTube tomorrow, 7 p.m. rather than 6:30 on YouTube tomorrow. So watch out for that half an hour later. Don't say I didn't warn you. Other than that, I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic evening. Ethan Udall thinks he was first with Osimhen. No. No. Ethan, you said Firmino, Mane, and Salah. By the time you said Osimhen, you were nowhere near. There we go. Anyway, look, have a fantastic evening. I'll catch you all later on Twitch or tomorrow. Goodbye.